The Laura Poitras documentary is riveting and highly recommended. I think people should definitely see that before they see the fictionalized version. But that's accurate. That's actually was shot during the events, right?
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Amazing.
That during this week that changed the world, the camera was rolling.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to her for being able to persuade him to allow the cameras to roll, because people get to see who Snowden was during that time of maximum stress. During that week, he fully expected that he would soon be in prison. He thought these might be his last hours in freedom, and he had a limited amount of time to transfer his knowledge and information to these journalists. And yet you see him in this film very calm, very articulate, able to explain his motivation and his plan as clearly as possible. People who say that the Snowden who speaks around the world right now must be the product of media handlers need to just look at that movie and see who he was before he met any of us. He had never spoken to a lawyer at the time that those scenes were shot.
I'm very dramatically struck after watching the movie by his genuine fear and paranoia and understanding of the far-reaching capabilities of the NSA. And you know, at first you watch it, you think, oh, this guy's just really paranoid. Could he possibly be legitimately paranoid? But as these documents have come out, we realize he understood better than anybody the capabilities of the NSA. It's like a Jason Bourne movie.
He knew what he could do from his workstation.
Yeah.
And he knew that there was a wide gap between what the rules might prohibit and what the NSA could legitimately control. And so he knew that there were thousands or tens of thousands of people sitting across the intelligence community who had virtually unfettered access to the private lives of anyone in the world. All they needed was a search term, an email address, a phone number. When he said that he could call up the president's emails if he just had an email address, he wasn't saying that the rules allowed that. He was saying that the technology made that capable, and there was no audit system that would have detected that had he done that. And you know, we know that because, after all, he walked out of the NSA with some very, very highly sensitive things, and the NSA still doesn't know what was taken and what was not. They're still making wild guesses about what he took and gave to journalists, and they're waiting for articles to be published to find out.
We haven't seen all the documents yet.
Oh, no, and we never will, probably. It was never his intention that we would see all the documents, or he could have just published them on the internet himself.
Right.
What he wanted to do was put journalism in between his actions and the public. As he says in Citizenfour, he wanted a system that would correct for his own biases. He had spent his entire adult life in the intelligence community. He had very strong views about what he thought was right and wrong, but he wanted to entrust the decision to journalists, their editors, their publishers, in consultation with the government, to make the very hard choices about what the public needed to see in free societies.
That was the thing that most impressed me and convinced me that Snowden was a patriot. That's my personal feeling, was that instead of just dumping it at WikiLeaks, a treasure trove, as others have done, a treasure trove of information and let people sift through it, he did what I thought was incredibly responsible, which was to, and not just give it to one newspaper, to give it to several,
Right.
Let them vet the contents, you know, and this is the one thing that's a little difficult for me, and then spin it out slowly. I realize the value of spinning it out slowly is we can look at it individually, and it keeps our attention. There may also be this cynical notion that, well, we'll also continue to generate content for years to come, and The Intercept has benefited, Glenn Greenwald has benefited.
I don't think that's what's going on, Leo. I think that in the beginning there was obviously a strategy not to publish 10 stories every week because the public would not have been able to digest it.
Yeah.
But I think that after a few months, a lot of the low-hanging fruit had already been published. The things in the archive that were, you know, memos or court orders that very clearly explained what the government was doing, and most of it is much, much harder to report on. If you've seen intelligence documents, they're complex technical PowerPoints, that they are diagrams. And so the news organizations have had to hire computer scientists, engineers, technologists to help them just understand what's in this archive, and then to make measured judgments about what the public ought to see and what they shouldn't see. So I don't think at this point any news organization is sitting on a story out of any sort of strategy to sell newspapers or extend the length of this debate. I think that if there were easy stories in there, they would have been published a long time ago.
No, and I have been satisfied.
One other thing, you hear from NSA defenders and Snowden critics that he should not have gone to the press, that he should have gone somewhere within the chain of command. There must have been some channel that he should have gone through in government in order to raise his concerns. And it's a very odd argument because, as President Obama correctly said in June of 2013, the programs that were revealed by journalists from the Snowden archive had been comprehensively approved by all three branches of government. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court had signed off on them. The Senate and House Intelligence Committees had been briefed on them. The president and the NSA director had authorized them. And it was only after the public was brought into the conversation through journalists that all three branches of government actually changed their minds about it. And open federal courts started saying these programs are illegal. Congress changed the law for the first time since the 1970s to take away spying power from the NSA. And the president admitted that the programs had gone too far. So what was Snowden supposed to do in May of 2013? Call up the Senate Intelligence Committee and say, I'm a 29-year-old contractor and I want you to know about programs that you've approved in secret. The problem was that constitutional oversight had failed, and we needed the fourth estate, the media, put into the First Amendment to the Constitution for a reason by the framers to reinvigorate democratic oversight.